Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Maria Andrea, and today I will be talking about my reading goals for fall of 2023 and things I'm excited to about my reading this fall. So grab a cup of something warm and cozy and join me for a chatty video. So I want to talk about my reading goals for the season, and they are three. One, read what I own. I do want to join the Read What You Own challenge. I've already started tapering my book buying habits. I just finished getting lots of things I maybe pre-ordered or things that had been in my cart that I hadn't fully processed to payment, and then I received notifications that they were reduced in price, and so I went ahead and I got those in this last week. And it was funny because I told my husband a few weeks back that I was not going to buy any more books, not going to bookstores. And then things came in the mail and he was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "No, that's it. I'd pre ordered or I had in my cart. I ended, finished up those transactions. That's it. I'm done." So I'll probably be posting a book haul soon with just the last book haul of the year for me, and I'm looking forward to reading what I own off my bookshelves. My second goal is to reread whenever I feel like it. So oftentimes I read a book and I think, what just happened? Or, wow, that was interesting. Or, oh my gosh, I love this book. I want to reread it immediately. And when I have those kinds of reactions, oftentimes I'm like, well, I really want to reread this book, but I'll reread it next year or I'll get back to it later because I'm so anxious and so excited to get on with the next great read. And I'm just wanting to read whatever else is new to me. And for the season, I've just been telling myself, no, like, if you want to reread something, reread it. Like, so in this month of September, that's what I've been doing. I've started rereading, and I'll mention some of those books that I'm rereading in just a little bit. But that's my second goal. My third goal is to finish what I've started. So fall of finishing what I started. Sometimes, oftentimes, because I'm a mood reader, I start something. It's great. I like it. I don't want to DNF it, but I DNF it for now because then there's something else that's calling my name, or I'm kind of done with this theme, or done with this kind of mood, and I'm in a different mood or looking for a different vibe in my reading. So then I pick up something else or something that someone on YouTube talks about and makes it sound like I got to read this right away. So I drop what I'm reading, pick something else up, and so that's the way my reading life works. And so then there are things with bookmarks that have been started and haven't been finished. And so this fall, I want to really go back to those things that I'd started, finish what I started. And I feel like future me is going to be so proud for finishing what I start. I'm really looking forward to making myself proud in December, on December 31st, when I can look back and see what I finished and didn't leave on for another year. So those are my three goals: read what I own, reread if I want to, and finish what I've started. Now, things that I'm excited for this fall. I didn't get to post about this before, but I was really excited to start with the second round of the Week of Weird, and this happened a week ago. So it started last weekend. Today is October 1st, so it started a week ago, and I had a death in my family this week, so I didn't get to do as much reading as I would want. I did start some of the books and some of the reading, but I didn't get to finish, and so I'm probably going to be extending my weird books on a little longer until I finish. So it's what I've been reading for the book Week of Weird, excuse me, is Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. I read Alice in Wonderland, really enjoyed it. I wanted to read Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm on chapter 5, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. And then I am rereading Temporary by Hilary Leichter. I talked about this book in my favorite things about summer, and I wanted to pick it up again. And it's a perfect book for the week of weird. It's definitely weird. It's fun. It's about a temporary worker and how she goes from assignment to assignment, job to job. And it pokes fun at the workplace, especially in Western culture, the way we work. And it's just funny. It's just a fun book. And as I'm reading through the looking glass, I'm thinking this feels a lot like Hilary Leichter's writing. So I kind of wish I could ask Hilary Leichter, do you like Lewis Carroll's work? Does that inspire you or influence you in any way as a writer? Because I definitely see similarities in how engaging and clever and smart the storytelling is. I just feel like they both authors, Lewis Carroll and Hilary Leichter, are such clever, smart, brilliant storytellers. And the way that they handle absurdity and humor, I just really enjoy. So I'm rereading this, and it's fitting for the week of weird. I'm also reading The Girl in the Flammable Skirts, a collection of short stories by Aimee Bender. I really like Aimee Bender. I've read one of her books before and really enjoyed it. So I picked up this collection of short stories back in March during the first round of Week of Weird, but I didn't get to it then, and so I wanted to pick it up now. I only read the first story in this collection, and I really liked it. It's titled The Remember, and the first line of the story says, "My lover is experiencing reverse evolution." So what it is the story of Annie and her partner Ben. And Ben is going reverse, not like Benjamin Button, where you go reverse in time, in aging, but reverse in living at a cellular level. So Ben is a human, goes from human to ape, and then continues to go in reverse in terms of cellular living structure. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting. The second, well, I do want to say on a personal note, I thought that the story really hit me and felt very relevant to me because the the partner's name is Ben and my partner's name is Ben. So there were some parallels there. And the main character's name is Annie, and my I go by Andrea for short, and so Annie and Andrea, that kind of felt like a similar sounding name. So Annie and Ben just felt kind of familiar. And the second story in the collection is titled "Call My Name," and the first line is intriguing. It says, "I'm spending the afternoon auditioning men." I haven't read more than that, but it sounds interesting and I'm looking forward to reading it. If you've read it, let me know. If you've liked it, do you enjoy Aimee Bender's writing? I certainly do, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. And another book that I picked up for reread this month, so I started it. I really felt like reading a space opera, so I picked it up, not knowing that there was such a thing as Space Opera September. And that is Sisters of the Forsaken Stars by Lina Rather. It is the second book in a series, and it's nuns in space on a living ship. Read it. It's great. It fit the prompt for a sci-fi weird book. And Lina Rather and her series came on my radar back in March through Crystal from Fiber Artsy's Discord. Hummingbird Bibliophile commented in that Discord channel about this series and Nuns in Space. Yes, please. So I picked up the first book. I really enjoyed it. Picked up the second book for September, and and then just started rereading it for the week of weird because I just really enjoyed it and I wanted to read it. It's really interesting. It's a great story. So yeah, um, I'm into nonsense space, so I recommend. And that's it for the week of weird. The other thing I'm really excited about is Banned Book Week. So Banned Books Week starts today, October 1st, and goes until October 7th. And I'm planning to read something off my shelf. So I have in mind to pick up Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. I bought this book years back and I haven't read it. It's been sitting on my shelves. It's a tough read, and I know it's a tough read. And I think because it's a tough read, I haven't picked it up, but I think it's an important story, and I'm really sad that it's been banned. Um, so I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to read it. And um, let me read a synopsis. So, Speak, written by Laurie Halse Anderson, was published in 1999, and it is a young adult novel in which Anderson tells the story of a high school freshman, Melinda Sordino. After Melinda is raped at an end of summer party, she calls the police, who break up the party. And it's about Melinda's experience reporting the rape, and I believe it really depicts the law enforcement's response and how they handled the report, the crime. I think it's an important story. I am sad it's been banned, and I want to read it. So I'm looking forward to picking up Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. And the next thing I'm really excited about for the season is Hispanic Heritage Month. So Hispanic Heritage Month started on September 15th, and I usually extend my reading for Hispanic Heritage Month up until November 2nd. November 2nd is Dia de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead. And a lot of the themes in Latin American literature is about death and dying in the afterlife. And so I read a lot of that. I really enjoy those themes in my reading, and I especially really enjoy it and love it during the season as I prepare for the Day of the Dead. I observe Day of the Dead, and I am looking forward to reading. So just a quick overview of some of those books that I'll be looking at. Now, this is a very reluctant TBR. I'm going to read as much as I can, but again, if I feel like rereading, I'm going to give myself that time. So I might not get to all of these, but I definitely have these on my radar for Hispanic Heritage Month reading up until Dia de los Muertos. So one book that I read in the month of September that I picked up for Hispanic Heritage Month is Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. And of course, Elizabeth Acevedo is one of the narrators for this book. So I love her narration. I love her books on audio. So I did listen to the audiobook for Family Lore. It's great. It's about a woman, Flor, who has the gift of having visions, and she has this vision that then prompts her to have a wake while like for as she is alive, like have a living wake for herself. So she plans a big party, and the book is not about the wake, but as much as it is about the family and in the days in preparation for the wake, what happens, what conversations are brewing, what situations are developing, and how secrets and family dynamics and how we protect one another and how we relate to one another and what we tell and what we keep to ourselves, and the pain and the love and the suffering and the grief and the humanity, the love, what sees us through. All of that, just those are themes that I really enjoyed in Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. And I'm currently reading Pedro Paramo by Juan Rulfo in Spanish, and I'm really enjoying it. It's also very fitting for this time as my family's been going through a loss, and in the book, the main character goes through the loss of his mother, and goes back to fulfill a promise, in search of he goes in search of his father. So going back to a place of the past to fulfill a promise, and search for his father and what he is learning. I'm still not done with the book, but I'm reading it, and I'm finding it very timely to where I'm at, where my brain is at, what I want from my stories. It's definitely fitting, and it's definitely a good book to read in preparation for the Day of the Dead. Um, the Hacienda by Isabel Canas. I have it right here on my shelf. Um, so I started this book, and I'm not going to talk about it too much in depth today, but I'm it's on my list of it's one of those books that I'd started and I didn't finish, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but rather because I started it last fall and then I didn't get to finish it because then maybe I wanted to read something like more cozy or like a different feel, a different vibe for like end of the year, December kind of reading. And so I put it aside and didn't get back to it. And now I want to read the next book, Vampires of El Norte. So I want to finish The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. Another book that I started last fall that I didn't get to finish in the fall was The Inheritance of Orquidea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. I want to pick it up again. I want to finish it. I started it. It was really good. It's definitely appropriate for the season. It has a very fall vibe. Definitely appropriate for Dia de los Muertos. Feels in some ways similar to family lore, in the sense of like there's this family and there's all these dynamics happening and all these relationships that are unfolding, and secrets that are coming up that are protected. And so there's definitely like those kinds of similarities. So if you like a book about messy, complicated families and secrets, and how we protect and how we love one another, and we how we grow and overcome and and change and evolve in our families, and then maybe become different or feel like you go in a different direction sometimes. So if you like those kinds of themes and families, like families that are just like in development and just messy and large and changing, those that's a good book. I didn't finish it, but I'm really looking forward to it, picking it up again. I also have had started Letters to Mama by Frida Kahlo, and this is nonfiction. It's Frida Kahlo's letters to her mother. And I've started it. It's one of those books that maybe I read a letter here, a letter there. I treat it kind of like a poetry book, where I don't sit and read a poetry book from start to finish. Rather, I, you know, take a letter at a time or a poem at a time. That's kind of how I'm approaching Letters to Mama by Frida Kahlo. So I started this book, I think, last year or the year before, and I kind of like just go in and out of it, just read a letter. And I love Frida Kahlo's work. So I love reading her letters to her mother. I think mothers and daughters is also a big theme of family lore, and so it also feels like that's another theme that I really enjoy, especially in the season of Hispanic Heritage Month. A good story about families, mothers and daughters particularly. If you like it, you'll like family lore. You'll love Letters to Mama by Frida Kahlo. And another nonfiction book that's on my radar for Hispanic Heritage Month is The Man Who Could Move Clouds, a memoir by Ingrid Rojas Contreras. Ingrid Rojas Contreras was the author of Fruit of the Drunken Tree. And this is a memoir about her family. So it's another family story, a memoir of a family. And I want to pick it up. I believe that this is about her father particularly. So hopefully I'll get to it this season. And then I also have Caramelo on my radar for this season. Caramelo is a book that I've read in the past, and And I think I've read and then maybe like reread and didn't finish it, but I have some scenes of this novel in my head is very vividly, but then there's a lot of gaps where I don't remember. I remember this scene, I remember this car ride, but I don't remember then what happens. And I remember like this conversation in this family situation, and then there are just gaps in my memory. So I want to pick it up again. I want to give it a reread, and I think this is a great book for Hispanic Heritage Month. It's also about a family traveling from Chicago to Mexico, I believe Mexico City. And I'll just read the book. Every year, Celaya Lala Reyes' family, aunts, uncles, mothers, fathers, and Lala's six older brothers packs up three cars and, in a wild ride, drives from Chicago to the little grandfather and awful grandmother's house in Mexico City for the summer. Struggling to find a voice above the boom of her brothers and to understand her place on this side of the border, and that Lala is shrewd observer of family life. But when she starts telling the awful grandmother's life story, seeking clues to how she got to be so awful, grandmother accuses Lala of exaggerating. Soon, a multi-generational family narrative turns into a whirlwind exploration of storytelling, lies, and life. Like the cherished rebozo or shawl that has been passed down through generations of Reyes women, Caramelo is alive with the vibrations of history, family, and love. Um, so, yeah, mothers and daughters, grandmothers, those are themes in Caramelo. Another book that's on my shelves and I want to pick it up and I haven't yet, but looking forward to it is Martita, I Remember You by Sandra Cisneros. Now, this is a really cool book. I love that it's two versions, English and Spanish. So this is Martita, I Remember You in English, and then Martita, Te Recuerdo in Español. And so there's just the sections kind of go, the book flips depending on the language that you're reading. So it's really short. So half of it is in English and half of it is the same book, but in Spanish. And this book I picked up, um, and I'd been wanting to read. I had wanted to read it for like about a year. It's been on my bookshelves for about a year, and I haven't read it. And it's Mrs. Murakami's Garden by Mario Bellatin. Um, The New Yorker blurbs Bellatin is usually included in a group of post-boom Latin American writers such as Chilean Roberto Bolaño and the Argentine Cesar Aria, who have introduced innovations not only in the style of their prose but in the way they think about literature. Uh, when we meet Mrs. Murakami in the opening pages, she is watching the demolition of her now dead husband's most prized part of the estate, his garden. The novel that follows takes place in a strange, not quite real Japan of the author's imagination, but who in fact holds the role of author. As Mr. Murakami's garden is demolished, so too is the narrative's authenticity, leaving the reader to wonder, did this book's creator exist at all? So it sounds like a really innovative, really um, different story. Like, I don't know. I haven't read it, but I'm really curious to see how it plays with my mind. um, And then the last one that I have on my list for Hispanic Heritage Month possible list of titles of possible reads is Ramon and Julieta by Alana Quintana Albertson. And so this is kind of a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, and it takes place on the Day of the Dead. Ramon Montes always achieves his goals, whether that means collecting Ivy League degrees or growing his father's fast food empire. Nothing sets Ramon off course. So when the sexy señorita who kissed him on the Day of the Dead runs off into the night with his heart, he determines to do whatever it takes to find her again. So I think Romeo and Juliet, but in a Day of the Dead setting. And so I'm looking forward to it. It's a romance, so um, hopefully it's going to be a light and cozy and heartwarming kind of a read. Um, and then another thing that I want to do during this Hispanic Heritage Month is I would like to go to my public library and start some, well, I've already started, but continue some of the research in terms of my genealogy. Um, I'll share more about that in another video. Next, Cozy Ween. I'm probably going to make another video about Cozy Ween, but I'm really looking forward to engaging in Cozy Ween this year. This would be my first year, and it is hosted by Evita at Evita Lecturitas. I'll link her channel down below. I'm interested in decorating for fall and Dia de los Muertos. I've had a slow start again because of like things that have been going on in my family recently, but I am looking forward to continuing to like bring in more fall decor and get into the spirit of the fall season. And for that, I'm going through Welcome Home by Michael and Smith. I really like Michael and Smith's take on decor and making things cozy and inviting, and I'm kind of using that as inspiration for my home decor. I'm also hosting a silent reading party on October 13th in my community, so I'm really excited about that. Number seven thing here on my list is nonfiction November. So for November, I have nonfiction November, maybe also some historical fiction reading, and it's also I think I'm doing a thing where I'm trying to decolonize my reading that part of the year. So I'm probably going to be reading a lot of Indigenous literature, hoping that that'll be the case. So stay tuned. And in December, I I want to read I want to read books that take place in one day, and I also want to read books about older adults in the older age older adults. So in Spanish, we have this thing about personifying the year. So when the new year comes in January, it's like it's a baby, and as we get to the final months of the year, we say el año viejo, which is the old kind of like we're calling the year like an old person, an old being. So in the spirit of getting to being our older version of ourselves, when we start the year, we're like we don't know what the year is bringing in, and we have so many hopes for a new year, kind of like we have so many hopes when we're young and we have all these things that we want to accomplish in our lives. And then you get to the end of the year and now you know what the year brought you. Now you've survived. You probably have had difficulties. You probably have overcome things that have been hard. You probably have had much joy. And it's been probably like filled with happiness and loss all at the same time. And you at the end of the year is different than the you at the beginning of the year. So in the spirit of appreciating aging and maturity and wisdom, the wisdom that you have when you're at the end of the year versus the wisdom that you had at the beginning of the year when you didn't know what was coming your way. I want to try to celebrate that by reading books about older adults. And lastly, the thing I'm looking forward to this fall season is my In Real Life book club, which I host and with some friends, and we're reading Elena Knows by Claudia Piñeiro. So I am running out of time for this video. Thank you if you've stuck with it. Let me know if anything that I've talked about today is something that you've read and you've enjoyed, or maybe you haven't enjoyed, or if you have any recommendations, particularly about books that take place in a year for December, or books about older adults. I would want to read a lot about grannies and grandpas and clever older people. Thank you so much for watching. Hasta la próxima.